Hello and welcome to another episode of the Contractor Grow Show. My name is Mark Lamberth. I'm your host. And today I'm speaking with Ray Cobb at 5C Home Solutions in Denton, Texas. Ray, thanks so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear from your words what services you provide for your customers.
We do anywhere from just the small handyman stuff to, your general remodels, your bathrooms, kitchens. We do a little bit of outdoor space type stuff, but most of our stuff is interior work. We also provide make-ready services for, real estate agents for homes that are, getting ready to sell, prior to putting on the market.
Interesting. Okay. So before they go on the market, not like handling inspections and things per se after, someone's got an offer.
No, we do that as well. The inspections, especially here lately, a lot of that's been concession type stuff. So, the work itself has been kind of a little bit limited on that end, but with the way the current market is, it's better to have homes in more of a move-in condition. So, doing that, slight updates, updated paint, obviously a house smells a lot better when it's been freshly painted.
Right.
Some maybe flooring updates, that kind of stuff is become a pretty key point of what we take care of.
Okay. What is the size of your team these days?
What's the what? I'm sorry?
The size of your team. How many guys you got on your crew?
So realistically, majority of it's just me. I really like to get my hands involved. I'm very, very detail oriented and I like to take pride in what I do. And so I've kind of had a hard time giving up a little bit of a leeway in that end, but I do have about 10 different subcontractors I use when it comes down to, once I get into some bigger projects and things like that. The handyman stuff, obviously I still take care of, on my own. And then the make readies, I'll bring in the crews as needed so we can try to be in and out in a timely manner.
Gotcha. Okay. Great. And you've had a few different, is it just business names or were they different kinds of businesses within the trades here the last few years?
Yeah, I started out as the name was actually great. And I'll be honest, I kind of kicked myself for not, deciding to step away from it. But, my first name was iBuild Handyman Services, LLC.
Uh-huh.
So that one, and then I started getting into some bigger projects, some more general contractor type stuff. It wasn't all just handyman stuff. And I decided that, I'm going to drop the handyman services part of that name and I'm going to do iBuild NTX. So North Texas,
Okay.
And actually I still have that LLC. I just don't do anything with it at this time. But, I was getting some phone calls for new construction, or asking if I did new construction. And at the time I wasn't that established or had the capability to do new construction. And so, I like the name iBuild, but I felt that it was, kind of misleading in a sense. And, and so that's when I started the 5C Home Solutions. The 5C, is derived from, family and stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of other contractors you've had that, kind of the similar type name. And, my plumber has his name 7G, it's kind of the same thing. So
Awesome.
Yeah. And so, so we, decided to go that route. Obviously I kind of kept everything in order with, my current clientele and, with making the change. And like I said, I still have the iBuild NTX name and I use that for if I get into flips. I've done a few flips in the past and, I like to kind of control them myself. So I use that name to kind of keep everything separated from the 5C Home Solutions name.
Sure. Got it. Okay. Great. And we had talked a little bit about before the show that, here in the last year or two, some things have felt a little bit slower. What has the market been like that you've seen here over the last few years? Things got all, kind of wonky during COVID and we came out of that. for more exterior work, it seems like it's been actually a fairly good time. Folks really focus, especially on the exterior of their house,
Yeah.
these last 5 or 6 years. But I mean, what have you seen happen here the last few years, and where do you think the market is right now?
So the last few years, yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said before the show, to me, it's just been a little chaotic. We had, right after COVID where houses were being bought 40, 50, 60. I even heard of a couple properties being bought $100,000 over asking. It's
Uh-huh.
like, the inventory was pretty low at that point. So when people were wanting to get into this DFW market, to live out here, we had a lot of people that were trying real hard to get into certain neighborhoods. We've got a couple towns that are really, ideal to live in, because
Hmm.
of the school district and, just the town in itself. But, the past couple years, with the rates being what they are, I haven't really checked what the rate has been the past couple weeks, but last I heard they were raised again. That was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. A lot of these pre-owned homes that, we're used to working on and getting ready, for sale, people are stepping away from them and, going into new construction, which, not to say anything horribly bad about new construction. I think one of their downfalls is that they're so worried about getting their houses built in such a timely manner that, I feel some things get missed, even during the
Sure.
inspection process and stuff. But, I mean, yeah, they're beautiful when they first open up. Right. So, um,
They show
it,
well.
they show very well, but then, and the thing with a lot of those, new construction homes is that, they're under a 1 year warranty, for cosmetics. And then a lot of
Uh-huh.
builders have been putting the homes under a 10 year, foundation warranty.
Oh.
And so a lot of the stuff that we're used to going and doing, like this minor repairs, we just don't really get that a lot with new construction just because of the warranties and stuff that have been set with those.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and one of the reasons that a lot of people are going to new construction too is because you can buy down your rate. It's a lot harder to buy down a rate with pre-owned homes,
Yeah. Hmm.
where you've got these new construction, communities that are, that's their big incentive. It's like, hey, come live with us, and we can get your rate down to 2.75 if you qualify. So
Uh-huh.
they're basically trying to get back to those COVID, rates. And
Hmm.
it's great, but people don't realize like how much that's actually going to affect, the bottom line outside of the monthly payment. But so it's been a little chaotic, and especially here in Denton, we've had a massive increase of apartments being constructed here. They kind of got rid of the limitation for how many complexes they were willing to have in the city. And
Uh-huh.
so developers were coming in here and buying land left and right,
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
uh, to do that. And so a lot of the people that we have coming into Denton right now is, obviously rentals. And I don't know if you're
Hmm.
seeing this kind of where you're at, but another big thing that we're seeing out here too is a lot of these new home construction communities are for rent. They're not to buy.
Oh, interesting.
And
Uh-huh. Hmm.
yeah, and so once again, yeah, it's great. We get more homes and all that kind of stuff in the area, but for people like me that are, kind of relying on people wanting to do stuff to their new house and all that kind of stuff. Well, people, if they're renting it, they're not going to rebuild their closets, or they're not going to, want some shelving units put up or anything like that, because it's not technically their home. And so,
Hmm.
so we're starting to see a lot of that. We've got a massive community coming in, and I think about half of the homes are going to be for rent.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
It's Yeah, and so yeah, so the market's just been, like I said, a little chaotic. And
Hmm.
and then we've also got the city infrastructures. It kind of makes it hard to get around in some of these cities, because in these smaller towns, because they're still based on 2-lane roads when they should be 4 to 6 lanes because of the amount of people
Uh-huh.
that are currently in that area. So
Yeah, seriously.
um
Okay.
yeah, and so, but like I said, I've got really good word of mouth clients, and so I tend to stay fairly, and try to just continue to take care of my clients so that we can continue that word of mouth, and hope that regardless if someone's going into a pre-owned or going into a new home, that they'll make sure to call us if there's any work that needs to get done. So
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I can tell from your reviews that you guys are a great company, man. You guys do excellent work because you're like 5 stars all the way across the board. Um,
yeah.
Fantastic. Well, good deal, Ray. We talked about a lot of great stuff here, man. Just some of the different challenges that have come up, and and just kind of where the market's at right now. What does the future look like for you here at this point? Are you thinking here over the next few years, grow the business and ultimately get some more team to kind of handle that, or stay exactly the size you guys are at right now, or what do you think you'll do there?
Yeah, we definitely want to grow, and when I say we, obviously my wife is involved on the back end of things. She hates being on job sites. um, but uh, but she's pretty good, with the computer stuff. So she's, here lately been really stepping in and trying to boost all of that for us. And when it comes down to growing a team, as much as detailed oriented as I am, and I just, I will let loose of some things so that I can get some guys in that, I can help grow to kind of understand, what we're truly looking for, when we're done and doing our projects. One of
Mhm,
my sayings that I use on a day-to-day basis is I don't strive for good enough, and,
mhm,
and meaning that, if something's wrong, fix it, go ahead and do it now. There's no reason
mhm.
to, leave it for the client to find. I do not like when a client finds a problem that was blatantly obvious that we should have known better to leave. Right.
Uh-huh. Sure.
And so, just trying to grow a team in that sense, being that we still do the handyman stuff, which is actually where some of our bigger projects come from, hiring somebody that kind of has that general knowledge of just about everything is a little harder to come by.
Uh-huh.
You have guys that are like, okay, I can do drywall and I can do a little bit of other stuff. Well, it's like, okay, well, I kind of need somebody that can do a little bit of everything, right? And so,
Uh-huh.
and then obviously, one of the things that I typically tell guys when I do hire them, if I do, is like, look, if you don't feel comfortable with something, let me know. I have no problem with you saying, hey, I'd rather not take care of this part of the project. If you or,
Mhm.
if we could bring somebody else in to take care of that, that'd be great. I'm not going to get upset about
Gotcha.
that. I'd
Uh-huh.
rather, and even though I tend to have that conversation, it still typically doesn't come up. Right. And,
Oh,
uh,
right.
yeah. And then so I come in and I'm like, what happened? It's like, well, I don't know. I just didn't feel, it's like, dude, if you didn't feel comfortable with it, you got to tell me, And so,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
um, but yeah, we do plan to grow. I do have 4 kids at home. So, and my littlest is 2. My oldest is 14, about to be 15. And so, we've got a lot going on the next few years with them, especially still with the couple littles that we have. And, I definitely would like to have full weekends off, not just Sundays, because that's kind of where I sit right now.
Mhm.
Um, and really be able to get to a point where I can spend more time with them, you know, and,
Yeah.
and, uh, which is kind of what it's about, especially when you own your own business and stuff. So, but, we have yet to hit the $1 million mark. But that's also a goal, in the next few years, is to hit that $1 million in revenue.
Yeah.
We've gotten pretty close a few years, but like I said, the market being kind of crazy the past couple of years has kind of dropped us down a little bit, which is fine, being that I've been doing majority of the work myself. But with the team, I think we can definitely get there. So
Gotcha. Fantastic. Well, Ray, it sounds like you guys are on a great trajectory here, man. If folks are wanting to hire you guys for your services, what are the best ways to get in touch?
so the best ways is going to our website, which is going to be 5chomesolutions.com. And on there they can fill out a form. Our phone number is also on there. and email address and calling or texting. We're also on Google as 5C Home Solutions in the Denton area,
Okay.
so people could search for us there.
Fantastic. Great. Well, thank you for coming on the show today and sharing all your experience here, Ray. It's great to hear the
Yeah.
story of what you guys are up to.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Mark.